Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 5th of June, now it's 11:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update today in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments that you may find interesting, and I will start with Ukraine and special military operation because since yesterday afternoon and until now, many Russian media outlets and I guess Western media outlets also are publishing articles with headlines that large-scale Ukrainian counteroffensive has begun and the rest of the crap in that manner, when in reality there is no large-scale Ukrainian counteroffensive anywhere on the front line. But what is really happening is local-scale offensive movements, local-scale offensive operations of Zelensky's regime, as I was predicting for months and months now. Because you know my take on this whole story of large-scale Ukrainian counteroffensive. They cannot conduct large-scale counteroffensive because it will need entire armies to be involved, armies. Tens of divisions and brigades. But do we see anything like that on that scale on the front line? Of course not. But because we are living in times when clicks and views are mean much more for media outlets than reality, they are using these clickbait headlines to generate this additional interest when very same media outlets are misleading society, unfortunately. I don't care about Western media really, but I find it disturbing that Russian media outlets are doing exactly the same and misleading Russian society because almost all big names in Russian media come up with this kind of articles that some kind of large-scale Ukrainian counteroffensive has begun when it's not true. And now let me share with you information that I have, and my analysis of situation. And I will start with the statement from Vladimir Rogov, official from Zaporozhye region, and he did write in his Telegram channel this morning that Ukrainian armed forces continue or renew their local-scale offensive operations in Zaporozhye region in direction of settlements Novopol, Priyutne, Novodarovka, and Romnopol. So Rogov did not give us any specifics, what kind of Ukrainian units are conducting operation with what force and the rest of it. It's understandable. It's difficult to say right now what is going on the front line, but we do have some information from some other sources, and I did share it on my Telegram channel, according to which armed forces of Ukraine did manage this morning to cross river in direction of Novodonetsk and even enter suburbs of this settlement. Let me show you on the map this area. So this is Novodonetsk, and as you can see, it's a river here, some small waterway, and according to some sources, Ukrainian forces managed to cross this river on the flank of Novodonetsk, and they are now pushing from the left side to enter this settlement. They are contradicting reports according to which some media outlets or some sources on Telegram are writing that they are fighting inside this settlement right now, and according to some sources, Russian forces withdraw from this settlement on the prepare second line of defense. So that's what we have for this moment when it comes to Ukrainian offensive operations, local scale, once again, offensive operations in direction of this bridgehead that Russia has not far away from Ugledar, between Ugledar and Gulyai Pole, really, right up front of Nova Vasilievka. And by the way, this offensive operation did begin yesterday, as we know it. Information about it become available in the afternoon, mainly. And we had a statement from Russian Defense Ministry, which I also share on my Telegram page. And let me give you some numbers. So according to Russian Defense Ministry, 6 motorized mechanized battalions and the 2 tank battalions of Zelensky's regime did conduct local scale offensive operations in direction of this bridgehead here. And as a result of heavy clashes, Ukrainian side lost more than 250 military personnel, 16 tanks, 3 infantry fighting vehicle, 21 armored fighting vehicle. And by the way, Defense Ministry of Russian Federation did share this video footage here and just count how many vehicles were destroyed during these local scale offensive operations of Zelensky's regime. You can see this on my Telegram channel. Tens of vehicles were destroyed on the minefields or by fire of Russian artillery and anti-tank missiles. So yes, I have all reason to believe that Zelensky's regime definitely did take such a heavy casualties during these local scale offensive operations. And you tell me if it was worth for Zelensky's regime to take such casualties for 2 small settlements that they did establish control over, which is Novodarivka here, this small village, and which is Neskuchная here. So as I understand, first line of Russian defense system did exactly what it was meant to do, slow down offensive of opposite side and deal massive blow to manpower and military equipment of enemy, and then withdraw on prepare second line of defense. And by the way, we are talking about this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia, that all these operations are taking place. So Russian side has here not just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 defense lines. Russian forces have many more defense lines. So I guess some may say that Zelensky's this beginning first stage of this local scale offensive, counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime was successful because they took control over the 1 or 2 settlements. But I will say, in comparison to losses that they had, this was a catastrophic failure for Zelensky's regime. That's my take on it. Let's see how the situation will develop further, if Ukrainian forces will be able to conduct military operations more successfully with minimal casualties. But at least for now, I think they are losing extremely huge amount of military equipment and manpower, and they won't be able to sustain this level of intensity in the battle because of these high losses. But yet again, let's see how the situation will develop. As I said many times before, Zelensky's regime don't have enough forces to conduct large-scale counteroffensive in direction of Azov Sea to cut this land bridge, because in that case, Zelensky's regime will need at least 300,000 to 400,000 reserves military personnel, which is at least few armies, tens of divisions or brigades. But what Zelensky's regime do have is about 70, 80, maybe a little more thousand soldiers that are concentrated in Kherson region, Zaporozhye region in direction of Kryvyi Rog and Dnipropetrovsk. And with these last reserves that they have, of course, Zelensky and his associates can conduct local scale offensive operations like ones that we see yesterday and we are seeing today in direction of this bridgehead that Russia has between Ugledar and Guliai-Pole. And as I said, they are taking huge casualties. And I don't think they will be able to sustain this level of losses for a long time. So, and by the way, let me show you on the other map landscape here in that area. It's open terrain. There is not much places to hide, really. Just look at it. It's fields all everywhere. It's open terrain, and movement of large Ukrainian units will be extremely dangerous for them, because I guess Russian intelligence will find out about it, and then Russian aviation and Russian long-range artillery will take care of it. So just look at it, man. It's just fields and fields and fields everywhere. So very difficult terrain to conduct offensive operations. When sides that are on the offensive move don't have necessary advantage in manpower, which has to be at least 3-1. When offensive side don't have advantage in air, which is crucial, and don't have advantage in artillery. So that's why I'm saying, and not just for this, but for many other reasons also, that if Zelensky's regime will start using its last reserves, it will be a suicidal mission for Zelensky's regime itself and for Ukrainian armed forces, because after Russian side will deal with this so-called counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime, then it will be Russian turn to become more active. And I believe once this Ukrainian last reserves will be neutralized, Russian forces will start offensive movement, offensive operations, large-scale offensive operations, and before end of this month, we may even see a situation when forward units of Russian side will be right next to Zaporozhye city, for example, or maybe even inside the city itself. But yet again, let's wait and see how situation will develop. And what is also interesting, according to some reports, during this morning's this local scale offensive in direction of Novodonetsk, Zelensky's regime did use Western-made battle tanks. Yet again, this information is not confirmed officially, but that's what's been reported by different Russian language pages on different platforms. And if that's the case, if Western-made battle tanks were used during this offensive, I guess during the day, close to late afternoon, we will probably see some video footage with destroyed Western-made battle tanks. So once again, let's wait and see. And when it comes to overall situation on the front line, as I said, at least for now, Zelensky's regime is trying to conduct this local scale counteroffensive or operations in direction of this bridgehead between Ugledar and Guliai-Pole. There are some not really significant activities in Orekhovo direction and Guliai-Pole direction, but nothing in that we can call even local scale offensive, at least for now. Kherson direction is quiet. There are artillery duels between the sides as usually. Very active is Donetsk direction, and there are some reports that Russian side did manage to conduct successful offensive operations in Marinka. As you know, Akhmat special forces were deployed in Marinka, and according to some reports, during the clashes in previous 24 hours, Akhmat special forces, with the active support of Russian armed forces that are located in that area, did manage to establish control over the additional territories in this settlement. And as you can see here, these white dots are approximate line of contact, and basically we can probably say now that under control of Zelensky's regime, only about 10% of the city, even less than that, because that's entire area is Marinka, and this small pocket here is only under control of Zelensky's regime. I guess in coming few days, Akhmat special forces and units of Russian armed forces that are operating in this area will establish full control over the Marinka. And very same will happen in Avdiivka. Very same will happen in Avdiivka, because as I predicted many times before, once situation with Bakhmut or Artyomovsk did resolve, Russian side did become very active in the direction of Marinka and Avdiivka, and they are truly achieving quite significant success, even though there was some report that Zelensky's regime did try to conduct some counteroffensive in Avdiivka direction. But yet again, if Avdiivka would not work for Russian side as a magnet to trap more and more Ukrainian units here and deal with them one by one, then I guess there will be no reason for Russian side to prolong this story with Avdiivka too much. And I guess before end of this month, Avdiivka also will be under full Russian control. And there were some reports that Zelensky's regime also tried to conduct some counteroffensives in direction of Bakhmut. There were some offensive moments in direction of Solidar, but according to Russian side, Zelensky's regime didn't manage to achieve any success during their counteroffensive, local scale counteroffensives whatsoever. And very important is of course Kupiansk direction, especially last few weeks, since extreme intensification of shelling of Belgorod region from Zelensky's regime. And as you can see, there are heavy fighting. Even this pro-Ukrainian map is acknowledging it, that there are heavy fighting in direction of Kupiansk, and there are some reports that forward units of Russian forces basically are in suburbs of Kupiansk already. And I guess in coming weeks, Russian forces will try to establish control over this bridgehead that Zelensky's regime has in this area, which is actively used to shell Belgorod region. I guess this will be priority for Russian forces in direction of Kupiansk for coming days. And by the way, I guess Russian side is already preparing or already had prepared plan to return control over the Kharkov region, because as long as this region is not under full Russian control, Zelensky's regime will have enough opportunity to conduct this sabotage activity in Belgorod or Kursk regions, and to shell all bordering regions of Russian Federation with Kharkov region. So I guess in during this summer, Russian side will try to establish control not just over the Kupiansk and this bridgehead, but also over the entire Kharkov region, because it's just it has strategic meaning. Let's see how situation will develop. That's when it comes to front line. Let me continue with some news now. And yes, I did share information about yesterday's Ukrainian offensive movements. And even though, as I said, many media outlets in Russia and I guess in the West did use this terminology that large-scale Ukrainian counteroffensive has begun, in reality, according to Russian Defense Ministry, it was only 6 mechanized battalions and 2 tank battalions that were participating in this local scale offensive movements. And I don't know about you, but I would definitely don't call these kind of small scale operations anything other than small scale or local scale. But yet again, we are living, as I said, man, in times when this clicks and views mean much more for media outlets that report about real situation, and that's why they are coming up with these crazy headlines. And let me continue. This is about Kupiansk direction, if I'm not mistaken, and according to Russian Defense Ministry, yesterday Russian artillery did conduct heavy shelling of 3 Ukrainian brigades. Let me give you numbers of these brigades: 63rd, 67th and 5th Ukrainian brigades of National Guard. And as a result of this heavy artillery and missile strikes, units of these brigades were dispersed and they went hiding in this forest area in Liman direction. So as you can see, it's quite huge massives of forest here in direction of Liman, and there are plenty of places where these Ukrainian units that can hide. But once again, if this information is correct, it does show, highlights morale of Ukrainian armed forces, because I do understand artillery is terrifying, but 3 brigades to began panicking and flee for forest for safety, and to conduct themselves in this manner, it does not really tells that they are very well prepared, isn't it? Maybe I'm mistaken. After all, I'm not military expert, but to me it seems strange that they don't have a pre-prepared positions to hide, for example, from artillery, and they are forced to flee for a forest. I mean, So as you can see on the southern flank of the front line, it's Zelensky's regime that are trying to come up with some local scale offensive operations, but on the northern flank of the front line, it's a Russian side that are conducting offensive operations, especially in the direction of Kupiansk, of course, Liman and Kupiansk, because as I said, the Russian side do need to establish control at least over this bridgehead as soon as possible, to create some kind of buffer zone and minimize shelling of Belgorod region. Let me continue, and next news that I want to share with you is exactly about shelling of Belgorod region, and we have RIA Novosti's report, according to which this morning, in early hours of this morning, Zelensky's regime did shell Novaya Volzhanka with more than 70 missiles from Grad multi-launch rocket systems. So yet again, this information just confirming what I just said, that Russian side do need to establish some buffer zone between Belgorod region and Ukraine, modern Ukraine. And that's why I think Kharkov direction will become very active in coming weeks and months. And by the way, this is statement from yesterday. TASS news agency did report yesterday afternoon that there were some clashes between Russian forces and Ukrainian DRG exactly in this settlement Novaya Volzhanka that was shelled this morning heavily by Ukrainian artillery. And late afternoon we did have a statement from Russian officials that this Ukrainian sabotage group that was trying to establish control over this settlement was mainly destroyed, and whoever survived did flee Russian territory for Kharkov region of Ukraine. Maybe today we will have additional information about it. Let me continue, and this is RIA Novosti's report about two Ukrainian drones that fell down on M3 highway in Kaluga region of Russian Federation this morning. I did share on my Telegram channel photos of those drones. This is it, by the way. As you can see, two drones did fail on the highway and they didn't even explode. Maybe Russian electronic warfare system did intervene and they did try to they did grounded these drones. It looks like it because they are not significantly even damaged. So probably this is work of Russian electronic warfare system. But today morning also Zelensky's regime was successful to hit one of the Energo facilities in Belgorod region. So as you can see, at some point in some instances, or in majority of instances, Russian air defense systems work very well and they do bring down aerial targets. But unfortunately, it's impossible to shut down all the aerial targets constantly. It's just technically impossible. Only Zelensky's regime can do that kind of stuff in the imaginary world. But in reality, in real world, this is impossible. Even though Russia do have one of the best air defense systems in the world, but still, man, you cannot. Even Israel's Air Dome system, which is also extremely effective and famous, even Iron Dome is unable to shut down all the aerial targets constantly. And that's why, unfortunately, one of the Ukrainian drones did manage to pass Russian air defense systems and attack Energo facility in Belgorod region. And as you can see here on this picture, it's this facility did caught fire and there is some smoke is coming. So yes, that's information from this morning. And also in Kursk region, Russian air defense systems, this is Interfax news agency's report. So in Kursk region, Russian air defense systems also did shut down Ukrainian drone successfully. So yes, there are activization all along the front line, and same time Zelensky's regime is continuing to strike deep inside Russian territory almost on daily basis. Fortunately, they are unsuccessful most of the time, but sometimes their missiles and drones are managing to bypass Russian air defense systems, which is unfortunate, of course. Let me continue now, and TASS news agency is reporting that today a Pacific Fleet of Russian Federation did start quite large-scale Navy exercises, and in this operation 60 warships will participate, and also 35 aerial vehicles, planes and helicopters, and also 11,000 military personnel. So I guess Japan once again will be reminded that it's maybe not best decision to act extremely aggressive or extremely hostile towards Russia. And same time, yet again, TASS news agency is reporting that naval exercises did begun also on Baltic, and Russian Baltic fleet will conduct quite huge maneuvers with the participation of 40 military ships and more than 3.5 thousand military personnel. 25 airplanes will also participate in this exercise, and 500 military and special equipment. So yes, Russia is trying to be ready. Russian side is trying to be ready for any possible development, which is right move and the necessary move, really, at this point. This is RIA Novosti's report, according to which Belgium, leadership of Belgium, did demand from Zelensky's regime some answers why Belgium military equipment was used on Russian territory in Belgorod region during recent terrorist attack of units that are loyal to Zelensky's regime in that region. And there are some reports, and even RIA Novosti is reporting that some investigation have been conducted in Belgium about unauthorized, if it's even right word, use of Belgium military equipment by Zelensky's regime. But yet again, what Belgium government were thinking when they did deliver weapons and ammunition to Zelensky's regime, that they gonna just look at these weapons and don't use it against Russia or on Russian soil. So to be honest, I don't really understand what kind of game Belgium leadership is conducting with this kind of statements. No matter what kind of statements they're gonna do, man, or with what kind of statements they're gonna come up. For Russian side, Belgium elites will forever will be enemies. At least for me. I cannot talk about majority of Russian society, but for me personally, Belgium elites and elites of all the countries that are participating in this conflict on behalf of Zelensky's regime are enemies of Russia. So who cares really what Belgium elites will say anymore? They are sending weapons to Zelensky's regime so that to prolong this conflict and to kill Russian citizens. That's what Belgium government does, and that's what all the other states, Western states, are doing. They are sending weapons to Zelensky's regime to kill more Russian citizens. And I guess we will never forget and we will never forgive. I will definitely won't. And I hope one day all these criminals in Western elites will pay heavy price for their crimes. I hope so. It will be good for citizens of Western states, and it will be good for entire world. Because, as I said many times, ruling Western elites are main danger for human civilization, in my opinion. Let me continue now, and this is TASS news agency's report, according to which Stoltenberg, head of NATO, did make statement that Sweden did everything that was required from it by Turkey. So this state should become a member of NATO, and Turkey should not oppose this any longer. Well, I can, how are you going to comment this, man? From military standpoint, for Russian side, it does not make any difference if Sweden is part of NATO officially or not part of NATO, because de facto Swedish military is fully integrated in anti-Russian coalition. And Swedish elites are part of anti-Russian coalition. So from military point of view, we don't care. They want to be our enemies and they are our enemies. That's a simple fact. But I don't really understand why Swedish society didn't oppose this kind of move from Swedish government, because Sweden did enjoy all the benefits of neutrality for decades, like Finland did and like Switzerland. And why they didn't oppose? I mean, probably there were some protests in Sweden, I guess, but vast majority of Swedish society just did agree with this kind of decision, isn't it? Because there were no protests. So I don't understand why. Why? Do they really want to be received as enemies by Russia? Why? I don't get it, man. They were a neutral state, they were enjoying all the benefits of neutrality for decades and decades, and they did build up great economy. And now they want to become an enemy of Russia. It does not make any sense to me, though. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate stuff that Swedish society and Finnish society, for that matter, basically said nothing to oppose these crazy moves by their own elites. But it is what it is. Let me continue now. And RT is reporting that UK's Prime Minister Sunak did try to press Biden to receive support from Washington on Ben Wallace's candidacy for head of NATO. Ben Wallace is current defense minister of United Kingdom. This individual did make quite a few extremely crazy and inadequate statements in previous months, and I guess if we are comparing level of inadequacy of Wallace and current head of NATO, Stoltenberg, Wallace is a good enough candidate really for NATO, because I guess it's a standard for this alliance that only extremely inadequate person can be in charge there. In charge formally, of course. We do understand that this current leading head of NATO, the Stoltenberg, is just a puppet in hands of real rulers of the Western elite, but still, looks like it's a golden standard of Western elites that only extremely crazy and disturbed individuals can be put in number of positions in all these so-called international organizations or alliances, and NATO is not exception. So Ben Wallace, in that sense, Ben Wallace can be candidate, because I mean he's definitely not an adequate person, isn't it? So yes, good luck with that. But anyway, who cares who will be formally head of NATO? This is RIA Novosti's report about Armenia and ODKB, relationship between Armenia and ODKB. ODKB is a military and political alliance that was formed by former members of Soviet Union. And Armenian leadership is not hiding that they are not happy with this organization. They are not leaving ODKB, at least for now, but relationships between the sides are not really at the best levels, and I guess it's only a matter of time when Washington and London will make sure that their puppets in Armenia's government, under leadership of Pashinyan, Prime Minister Pashinyan, will leave not just ODKB, this alliance, but also all the other organizations that was created with the participation of former Soviet republics, and even destroy relationships with Russia, because that's what Western elites want. They want Armenia to be distanced from Russian Federation, and under current regime in Yerevan, Armenia moving exactly in that direction, and the relationships between Russia and Armenia are deteriorating in, significantly, really. I will say even in extreme pace, but significantly is also a strong enough word. So yes, I mean, at this point, don't really have any meaning, any statements from Yerevan, because we all understand that it's a matter of time, and Western elites will make sure that Armenian leadership will destroy relationship with Russia entirely. Let me continue. This is TASS News Agency's report about Russian government's decision to hold on its decision to cut oil input on world market up to 2024, up to end of 2024, and we are talking about 500,000 barrels a day that was cut by Russian side a few months ago to support stability on prices, on price-wise on the oil. And yesterday some sources did report that it's not just Russia that will maintain this cut on oil production by 500,000 barrels a day, but also many other OPEC plus member states will cut oil production. Overall, it will be more than 3.2, if I'm not mistaken, million barrels a day. And I did read one article yesterday which said that Saudi Arabia, for example, will cut its oil production by million barrels a day, which is, I guess, very significant. And by these moves, these OPEC plus countries will definitely manage to maintain good enough prices for oil exporter states. So, quite understandable move. Russian side will maintain its decision to cut oil production for 500,000 barrels up to end of 2024, and probably many other states will follow exactly in this manner, so the prices will be high enough. And this is RT's report about Iran's trade with BRICS member nations, which is surging. And we have statements from Foreign Minister of Iran, Amir Abdullahian, who said that trade between Iran and BRICS will exceed $30 billion, and number one trade partner for Iran is China, second is India, and third is Russia. And according to Foreign Minister of Iran, this state is very much interested to become a part of BRICS, and this increase in economical and trade relationships, exactly the pathway to achieve this goal. And the foreign minister of Iran is sure that trade relationships will even intensify, because Iran will also use, especially with Russia, China, and Iran, because Russia, China, and India, because Iran will also become more active in Shanghai Cooperation Organization by using opportunities that this organization is providing. So yes, Iran is a extremely significant state in the Middle East. It's a regional power for sure, and I guess it will be good for BRICS if Iran will become member of this organization. Not just Iran, but also Saudi Arabia, so that they will be balanced, met on the Middle East. It's very significant region for this world, so everything should be balanced there. So yes, maybe we will see in foreseeable future that Iran and Saudi Arabia are joining BRICS. Why not? Why not, really? Both are extremely significant states in the Middle East, and I will say in the world. And this is going to be last news for today's first update, according to which Turkey will increase its price for ships that are passing through Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits for 8%, if I'm not mistaken, 8.3%. So yes, ships will have to pay significantly more to pass through these straits, and it's good for Turkish economy, I guess, because according to numbers that RIA Novosti is reporting here, Turkey will receive about $900 million a year just by this price for passing through the strait. And there are some additional assistance services that Turkey is providing for the ships to pass these straits, and that brings to Turkish economy additional tens of millions of dollars. But same time, we will probably see that this decision of Turkey will influence on prices in Europe and worldwide. Maybe not in a huge margin, but at least in few percentage point, because if companies have to pay more to export their goods or to transport their goods, then of course they will demand higher prices for their goods. It's just simple math. But yes, it is what it is. It's significant decision of Turkey, and I guess it was right to share this information. And by the way, before I end this update, let me share with you this very strange story that happened in previous days. We have information here that in previous days, PMC Wagner did make statement that some units of Russian armed forces did mine roads that were supposed to be used by Wagner PMC units to withdraw from Bakhmut. This kind of statement was made by Wagner PMC a few days ago. Then some incident did occur when Russian armed forces, some units of Russian armed forces, did open fire in direction of one of the trucks of PMC Wagner, and one of the units of PMC Wagner was disarmed. And then yesterday this video appeared on the Russian language Telegram channels, in which seems like commander of 72nd Brigade of Russian Armed Forces, Roman Vinivitin, is confessing that it's he that did open fire in the direction of one of the PMC Wagner units because some personal issues that he has with PMC Wagner. And by the way, I don't even know how to comment on this story, because during the military operation, when this kind of stuff is happening, that military personnel, I understand, one is official state institution, armed forces, second is private military company, but still they are on same side. But when this kind of crap is happening, something is definitely very wrong, and some serious decisions should be made before it's not too late, really. So according to some sources, this lieutenant colonel, head of 73rd Brigade, was detained by PMC Wagner unit, and he did confess in this video that he was wrong, and that his personal hatred towards PMC Wagner that did cause this unfortunate incidents between the sides. And I don't know, man, this is crazy. This is crazy. Some decisions definitely should be made before it's not too late, because I don't know, this kind of stuff is a disgrace. This kind of stuff is just disgrace. And hopefully all the issues between PMC Wagner and Russian Defense Ministry will be resolved, because it's just necessary, really, because it went too far already. Because it seems like, I mean, when Russian military units are mining road that should be used by Wagner PMC, I mean, this is looks like internal sabotage, really. Looks like it. I'm not there. I'm not gonna say that I know any better than anyone else, but to me, all this story of confrontation between PMC and the leadership of Russian Defense Ministry, and in this particular case with the leader of 72nd Brigade, to me all this story is just pure madness. It should never happen, and some decisions must be made to make sure that all the sides that are fighting on behalf of Russian Federation should cooperate and not fight between each other, for God's sake. But yes, I mean, it is what it is. I hope you will find this video interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like. As you know, more likes and comments video will have, more chances are that YouTube algorithm won't suppress it too much. And if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. That will probably help me greatly to reach wider audience. And if you think this channel is interesting, informative, useful, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through Patreon, through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. That's been said, this is it for now. Have a great day, have a successful week, new week, and take care.